Hello and welcome to the sixth part of Learning Blender. You may notice my mic is a little bit higher on volume because I noticed it was very low on the other one, so I've turned it up a little bit for you for your ease of listening. So, we are now looking at an important part. Up until this point, you probably have uploaded your work to whatever virtual portals or whatever VR stuff you're doing, and you've noticed that when you come to put textures on these objects, they are just texturing all over the place. You're able to put colours onto them, so you'll be able to colour the panels a direct colour, but as soon as you slap a texture on, it's just looking real horrible and it's just not working for you. In this, we're going to look at the first way of doing texture in Mesh. There is two ways, more than two ways, but we're going to be looking at the first way. The first way is the way I learned when I was starting, so I'm going to show you that, and then we'll look at the other way later on when you get a little bit more used to the tools and a little bit more comfortable around Blender. Let's have a look at this cube and different ways we can texture the cube. So, we know how to do a lot of stuff now with this cube. We can expand it, we can do all kinds of stuff. Let's look at colouring that cube in without using the material panel, but actually we're able to put textures onto this cube. The first thing we're going to do is go into edit mode, and we're going to select everything. So we're going to make sure that everything is lit up. We do that by pressing the A key, A for all. Now, once we've done that, we are going to make a UV map. So we go to UV and we go to Smart UV Project and we unwrap. What this does is takes the object and then splits it up in a way where we can put textures on each side. Let's have a look at what happened. So if we go to the top here, it says UV editing. We're going to click on that and you'll see it's generated this. Each one of these boxes represents a side on this box. So if I was to select one of the sides on the box, let's say for example this side here at the top, you'll see it lights that one up because that one is represented to this one, meaning that if I put a texture here, it would appear on this side. Same with this, same with this, same with this, and same with this. And selecting all highlights all of the textures here. But it also shows the one that you've got highlighted in a darker colour. So that means if we were to take this into a editing software, for example, Blender or Photoshop or ZBrush or Canva or Pixlr, there's many different versions you can use, we'd be able to edit that and basically get a texture that we could then put on this box in our virtual world that would colour it in accordingly to the boxes. So how do we get this map from here into an image that we can then work over? Well, it's very easy. You just click UV and then you go to Export UV Layout and save it somewhere. You're going to be then given a texture that looks something similar to this. I've opened it up in Photoshop, but you could open it up in whatever you want. Now, I'm just going to make another layer underneath this, and I'm going to colour it in white. I'm not doing Photoshop tutorials here, so don't expect me to explain too much about what I'm doing in regards to trying to find the paint bucket. In regards to Photoshop, I'm just going to colour it in the old way because I can't find the paint bucket at the moment. So now you're going to see we've got these panels here. Now if I was to go and, for example, go and get a texture, we're just going to go, I don't know, metal texture. I'm just going to grab anything I can find. I'm going to go with this one. That one looks fine. Yeah, grab that. So I'm going to grab a texture that you can't see, it's on the other screen. And then I'm just going to paste that into here. and you'll see I have that texture. If I then align this to the corner here and then made it so it fit one of these boxes like this, and then I was to do the same, copying it, paste it, copy it, paste it, you know, same thing over and over again, just popping them in the allocated boxes like so, what would happen is that this would now texture that box with this texture, and it would be aligned beautifully. I could then write on, say, one of these, or change the color of one of these, and in return it would change only the color on one of the sides. And that's how you make a UV map to this. Let's say you want to do it a little easier in some sense. So instead of making a panel that has all of these, let's say that you only want one side and you've got a particular texture you want to use. So let's say that this isn't a box. What it actually is a frame. So I'm going to make it into a frame very quickly by using the scale tool, by pressing S and then selecting its axis. And I'm again selecting its axis, and I'm just pulling it out by pressing S for scale and then grabbing it with the axis and then pulling it in. And here I'm going to do E for extrude, S for scale, and I'm just going to pull it in so it's cut into the thing like that. I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to do E for extrude, and I'm just going to pull it back like that. And we've made a frame. So what we'd like is the whole of the frame and the outside were okay. We're not bothered about that. We're just going to colour it in a colour. But we'd like this centrepiece to be separate. So let's first give it a scale. A texture. So it already has a material built. So it already has a texture on all of it. Here we can see that. So let's make a texture for just the back part. So what we do is we select the centerpiece like so, and we create a new texture. It's going to be this. I'm going to press new, and we're going to press assign. Now we know that this side bit has one texture. You can see because it highlights it there, and then when we select the middle, it highlights it here, meaning we have a different texture for that middle bit. Now if we were to take all of this object here and go into UV unwrap and smart UV unwrap, and then go to the UV unwrap, you'll see it creates us a lovely little map here, which is great. But we've got to then find the one that's the thing. We've got to import this. We've got to take the texture. We've got to cut the texture down. We've got to make it so it fits inside that square. It's a lot of work for all we want to do is drop a texture on it. We know we've got the texture. We've downloaded it. We just want to grab it and just put it onto it. So how do we do that without having to go through all this rigmarole? Well, it's dead easy. All you do is you select just the piece that you want, which is this piece. And you go into UV and you click unwrap. What that will do is it will create just a big square. And now if you were to bring this into your virtual world and drop a texture on that front bit, it will just take the entire texture and just put it on that front bit. So that is how you would texture something that you needed if you just needed to slap a texture on something and you didn't really care about it, you know, you're having to go in and mess around with it and put interesting bits on each part. You just want to just put a texture on it. That's how you do it. So let's have a look at something more complicated. Let's take an object. Let me show you. We're going to import something that I've built in Second Life, which is a table. I'm going to import the table. Here it is. First thing is, it's all in separate parts. That's what happens when you bring something in from Virtual Worlds or Second Life. So we're going to go to Object, and we're going to join it together. So now it's all joined, it's all one part. Now I want the top of this table to be very easy for me to find on the UV map. So how would I do that? Well, you can do that with what's called mark seams. So by selecting the edges, all I went is to the top here where it says edge select in edit mode, and I'm now selecting the edges. You could just select top face, I guess, but that's what I've done. I then go into edge and I mark the seam here. So edge, mark seam. What that will do is put a colour around that top piece. You see how it's gone red? Now, if I go and select all and then go into Smart Project and unwrap, you will unwrap it, but it's made these lovely big pieces which are in relation to the top and bottom of that table. So they're really easy for me to see here. I can, when I'm in this edit mode, move things around if I really want to. I can take them out and adjust them. So if I really wanted to, I could make these, I can neaten it up just by using the boundary box, which is B, and then selecting the object. That's scale, that's S for scale, and G for grab, exactly the same the way that you do stuff in Blender. So S for scale, G for grab. I can rotate it by pressing R. I can move these around to make it easier for me, so that when I come to texture these, they're in a way where I can colour them easier, and I know what everything is. So I know that those are the legs, I know that those are the underparts, and I know this is the top and the bottom of the table. I would first have a look to see which is the top and which is the bottom. In this case, let's have a look. This one is the top and that one is the bottom. So I now know that this one here is the top. I can then select everything, go to UV, go to export UV, and I can export this now and then start texturing this area here, knowing that it is the top of that table. And then I can put wood effect on these pieces, knowing that that is what I would like. Again, if I wanted to, I could go one step further if I really wanted to, and I could select just the top. I could make a new material, assign it, and I could go to UV and then unwrap, and that would unwrap it to here. Now you can see it's only wrapped it half because of the way the shape is. The shape is that, so it's going to do it like that. But it doesn't matter, you could move that. So if I wanted to, I could do boundary box, which is B for boundary box, select everything, G for grab, and just move it across. I can use the constraints if I want to, so I can still use Z, X, and Y if I want to. And I could move it to the middle like this, knowing that if I put a texture on it now, it would just fill that middle section. Or you could press S for stretch or scale. I could constrain it to the Z axis, the X axis, and I could pull it out and highlight the entire box if I really wanted to. You can choose how you want to make these maps, but essentially what you see in this box is what will be on the material image. So if you get a material, let's say this metal one here, what I want you to think of is that this box here is this box here. So whatever image you find, it is this box here. It's just, that's what it is. So if you put that into there, it will fill everything on the top of that table. If you were to do it on the one before, so if I go back a couple of steps and select everything like this, if I was to take that texture that I just had there and drop it onto here, what will happen, I will show you actually. I'm going to show you. This snippet tool is fantastic, by the way. It comes free with all Windows, and you can just cut textures out like that, and then you can save them really quickly, really easy. It's called snipping tool. You'll find it in most places, in most of Windows. It's an absolutely fantastic tool. So if I go to open and I find the texture that I've just taken down, which is that metal one, let me find it. This will do. you'll see that what it does is it will add it to the back, but all these areas that are marked, like this one here, it will only show what it's got covered. So it'll only show that part. So that's how it works, is that it will only colour in like what you're seeing here. So you'll see here, you see how the quality is really not very good? That's what you're going to see on the legs. That's the quality you're going to see on the top of the table. You get around that by stretching it, making it smaller, making the texture, when you actually make the texture, you can make the resolution higher, so you can do it like 2000 or 3000. Now remember, SL will let you upload those, and Virtual Worlds will let you upload them, but they take up more memory and they cost more to upload. So that is basically how you're going to learn to texture at the moment. There is other ways of doing it, but this is what I'd like you to have a play around with. I want you to play around with making an object, making a UV map, taking the UV map into a editor and then colouring it in, uploading that texture, and uploading your model using file, export DAE, and putting the texture that you've made externally onto this object. Once you press that UV unwrap button, it tells this what to do. So you don't have to take any more steps. Once you press that UV unwrap, what you see in that panel is how it's going to texture when you drag the texture onto it. So that's this class. Have fun, try and create something, try and put a texture on it. Best of luck. If you have any problems, you can always join the Discord and we'll give you some advice and help.